2022 Order of Interbeing Retreat at Blue Cliff Monastery. We're very happy that you're here physically, and we're also very happy that our siblings are joining us online. Can you guys wave to us, those of you who are online, and you see us waving back? Wonderful. Let me pull this way so. Can you see? Just so you know that this retreat, we gathered around 100 of us here at the monastery, including around 30 monastics and lay residents, so it's like 130 plus. And then online, it's about 90. So we're more than 200 of us gathering, both OI members and OI's member to be in a few days. And also, surprisingly, we also have about 20 to 30 aspirants who are not yet ordaining this time, but for sure in the near future. So welcome all of you. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you two of our presenters tonight. First is, I'd like to introduce Susan Pulis. Susan is from Greensboro, North Carolina. She joined the Sangha since 2007 and became an OI member in 2011. She practices with the Deep River Sangha and also Winston-Salem Sangha. She teaches mindful movements and yoga to older folks whom she calls wise people. And there are different centers around town in her area. She is a watercolor artist and also a freelance writer. In her free time, she enjoys walking in the forest, watching the turtles, and also enjoy quality time with family members. And next to Susan is Mitchell Ratner. Mitchell is from Maryland. He starts joining the Sangha in 1990 and went to Plum Village for a winter retreat, 3 months long winter retreat in 1991. And then something happened. After that, he became an OI member in 1993. He's a Dharma teacher since 2001. He practices with the Stillwater Mindfulness Practice Center in Maryland. And I found out that he also practices in 8 other locations with 14 different groups, 18 times a week online and off. He organizes around 40 facilitators to help support all these different sanghas in his area. By trade, he's an anthropologist, and he studies social programs in the US. In his spare time, one more thing. Last but not least, he enjoys Tai Chi. He also enjoys walks in nature and also quality time with family members. We'd like to invite you to welcome our two presenters, Susan and Mitchell, and they will share with you about basic practices in our tradition. Thank you.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, dear friends, good to see everyone. So I'm going to start off totally off script. Listening to the chanting, I started to tear up, and it just brought so many memories back from Plum Village and just hearing the monastics, and it really hit me what we were listening to. And not sure many people know. I mean, what the chant is actually saying, as I understand it, and I'm sure there are people here who know better than I do, but that it's saying, I honor, I give praise to Avalokiteshvara. And Avalokiteshvara literally means the one who hears deeply and responds to the suffering of the world. And so that's what we were chanting, that's what they were chanting. And, you know, this time we're going through, with the world situation, the climate situation, with the transition of Thai, the transition of so many during COVID, it's just such a powerful image. A really powerful aspiration. So thank you for letting me share that, and now I'll get back on script. For a while, Susan and I talked about this, and it's going to be something of a tag team, and we have a general idea where we're going, but certainly no script. But anyway, Phap Khoi mentioned that we're going to talk about basic practices. And the most basic of basic practices is coming back to the present moment. And so, Sister, I would appreciate if you would invite the bell, and we'll sit for about 5 minutes, and I'll do about 30 seconds of guiding at the beginning, and we'll sit. And breathing in, I'm aware of my in-breath. Breathing out, I am aware of my out-breath. Using my breath as an anchor, I am aware of my breath, my body, my feelings, my emotions, my sensory experiences, all that is in this present moment. Letting go of sorrows and regret, plans, worries, just to be in this moment, this present moment.
Dear respected Thai, dear respected beloved community, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Mitchell. That was really a wonderful way to start. And I know that so many of us have been very busy getting here, preparing, taking care of work, family responsibilities, then traveling by car, by plane, by train, so many ways. And so there's a lot of momentum for us to get here. And so we have arrived. And so we can support each other as we come into this retreat, this legendary moment where we stop and we calm down and we take care of ourselves. And we really have the chance to rest in the support of the Sangha. So we're just gonna, I want to just talk about conditions a little bit for how, and just offer some appreciation in terms of causes and conditions for how we came to be here. And I hope if you can't hear me at any point, please raise your hand. So, in our practice, we acknowledge our ancestors, our land ancestors, and our spiritual ancestors, our blood ancestors. So maybe just take a minute. We're going to take a little trip together and acknowledge our various ancestors. And so we'll start with our land ancestors, this land that where Blue Cliff is. And so you can keep your eyes open, you can close your eyes, just let these words kind of wash over you. So this is also acknowledging not just the human ancestors who have been in this land. There's many, many plant and vegetable, other kinds of ancestors. So there's evidence of human society in this area that goes back more than 6,000 years. There's numerous nations that inhabited this land that we now know as the Lower Hudson Valley. The Mohicans, the Lenni-Lenape, the Algonquin, the Munsee nations were happy and thriving societies, civilizations for many thousands of years. And then there was the arrival of the Dutch explorers in the early 1600s, where they developed outposts, and that's where the beginning of trade was established between indigenous people and Europeans. Then the Dutch, English, and German immigrants began flooding this area to establish settlements and build railroads and establish farms and taking land that had once been other people's land. Over time, this particular area around Pine Bush became known as a refuge for the city dwellers to come here to get back in touch with nature, to come to these wonderful camps for families and children. And so then the Hotel Geronimo was established, and that was on this 89 acres. That was established by a family from Cuba who had originally immigrated from Spain. And so the Golden Lotus House is actually the original farmhouse. And then all the other buildings are here, and we're sitting in this beautiful meditation hall. On May 3rd, 2022, so next week, is the 15th year anniversary of Blue Cliff Monastery being established. Yeah. So, the most precious thing is the large magnolia tree in front of the Harmony Hall that's blooming right now. And that's a place where many, many grand uncles, grand aunts, uncles' ashes are spread under that tree. Maybe that's why it's blooming so beautifully. So another little fact is that Pine Bush was known as the second UFO capital of the United States in the 1970s and 80s. That's unidentified flying objects, visitors from other dimensions. Maybe they were bodhisattvas coming around. And then, of course, we have our blood and spiritual ancestors, the Buddha, Thai, our beloved teachers, living and not living, the Fourfold Community and others. And then we have our family, friends, our companions and Sangha members. And so we can offer all those causes and conditions our deepest gratitude for making this very moment possible. Thank you.
Dear sister at the bell, please keep doing what you're doing. In my note was to ask you to invite the bell periodically, but you're doing it already. So I love the wordless communication that we have. I wanted to say something here about inclusion and just my experience, my feeling from Thai and his writings and his teachings is the Thai, I believe, practice radical inclusion. Thai wanted to include everyone in his heart, and he did. And it was just quite amazing and a model for us all. And he did it without regard to race or color or ethnicity, religions and beliefs, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, and it goes on, income, education, age, whether somebody was a citizen or an immigrant, physical and mental capacity, years of practice, Vietnamese, non-Vietnamese, people who say stupid things and people who don't say stupid things. I mean, that Thai loved everyone, and there's stories I've heard from the people have told me about being at the Hermitage, where there were a lot of mice running around, and people wanted to bring over the cats to encourage the mice to leave, and Thai wouldn't let them. He said he didn't want to terrorize the mice. So I think that's just a real model for us as a community. It's not always easy to do, and I know Um, but it's a real model that what if we're Thai students of something we can aspire to, of really including everyone in our hearts, including those who have harmed us or might harm us, to include them in our hearts too. That was when Thai talked about the pirates who were terrorizing the fleeing boat people, or the murderers in that poem, "Please Call Me by My True Name." He really was able to open his heart to everyone. And at the same time, this is so important, he was committed to protecting from harm as many people as he could. That there was a certain, his love of everyone did not lead to indifference or passivity. And I was realizing, in terms of the boat people, I mean, he learned to love the pirates, but he was out there in the Bay of Tonkin giving directions and food and gasoline to these boats that were fleeing to actually help them. So it's part of our tradition. And I want to segue into this whole question of aspiration and intention, that it's been part of the Buddhist tradition for 2,500 years of paying our attention to our deep aspirations, our conscious attention, our volition, this language of having to do with will, whether it's conscious or unconscious, and how our karma, our future, the world's future, is related to the will that we bring to it, our intentions and aspirations. So I want to take a few minutes now to just let everybody sit with that and ask you, what do you want from this retreat? What is your aspiration, your deep aspiration for this retreat? How will you experience? And not so much a goal, but like Thai, often thinking in terms of ways of being free, joyous, concentrated, awake, engaged. But just hold this question, and Sister, if you'll give us 3 minutes for everybody to just sit with this question of, what do you really want from this retreat? And if you have time afterwards, do you have any fears or hesitations about this retreat? Just to acknowledge them, because only as we're able to acknowledge both our deep aspirations and our fears can we work with them. Please, Sister. Most of us know from Dharma sharing how powerful it can be to share what's in your heart with someone else and to give it words to have other people hear it. So we're going to practice that now. We're going to ask you to break into groups of 3, preferably with somebody you don't already know or didn't drive here with. You get extra points if you include a monastic and a layperson in the same group. And we're going to give you 12 minutes to share about what are your aspirations for this retreat? What are your hopes, intentions, and perhaps what are your fears? Understood? Any questions? And people who are online, that the monastics, our wonderful, fabulous monastic IT team is prepared to use the magic of Zoom to break you into groups of 3 in the breakout rooms. And when they do it, you'll be assigned to a breakout room if you're not already. And you just have to push, yes, I want to join breakout group 3 or 6 or 9 or whatever it is. So why don't we give the people in the room a few seconds to find your little group of 3, and then I'll ask the sisters. Remind me your name. Cyprus. 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 Thank you, Mr. Cyprus. So find your groups of 3. Just be bold. Be brave. It can be 2 if you want to. It could be 4 if you have to. But 3 is a good number. Susan, do you want to join a group? Or do you want to talk? 12 minutes. Oh, wait a minute. Sister Cyprus, give us a bell and then do it again in 12 minutes. Please. Dear friends, sorry to break up your group. From up here, it was just a lovely sight. I mean, to just see everybody and well, my experience is when we do something like that, we just cut through the small talk and get right to the heart of things. And to see all these little groups so intense, and it was like the bird calls. I mean, we couldn't hear anything anybody was saying, but there was a real aliveness to the energy that was just delightful. And to see a number of people got extra points by having monastic and lay groups, and so that's terrific. So the title of this retreat is No Coming, No Going, which is a lovely title, lovely song, and wonderfully apropos. And this afternoon, as we were chatting with Thai Phap Khoi, I asked what it was his aspiration for this retreat. And it was interesting. He said that what he wanted in this retreat was for us to come back to our basic practices, back to the practices Thai has taught us, so that we can confidently go forward. That there's my experience is when there's a death of somebody in a family, it's a very critical moment. It's like there's been a network of people, and it's all functioned well, and now there's somebody took a knife to part of it and cut it apart. And so there's a rupture. And some families aren't able to reknit the fabric and break apart. And other families are able to do that and become stronger and mourn their losses, but accept, embrace, love those who remained, and move forward into the future. And so that's what I was hearing from Brother Phap Khoi, and I think it's a lovely vision for our time together too. And we have about 8 minutes left to talk about basic practices, but that your aspirants, your order members, your monastics, you know the basic practice. The only problem is doing it, right? And it's just do it. And we were talking too, this is a wonderful place to really practice, because the practice is held so deeply in all the little routines we do, in our silent times, in the way that we wash dishes, the way we stand in line, all these ways. So back to basics so we can go confidently forward. forward. I think it's your turn, Susan.
So we're just going to kind of tag team going back briefly to refresh ourselves about our basic practice. What's so wonderful is when at the monastery, in the energy of the Sangha, we support each other in the basic practice. So one of the foundations is listening to the bell and following our breath. And so I think we all have a lot of experience with this, and when just a reminder that we will hear the bell quite often when we're doing different tasks and so forth, when we're in the tea room and maybe when we're outside getting ready to do something else. So that's our invitation, always come back to your breath, come back to our breath. And just follow that breath all the way in and all the way out. And that's so basic that for some reason, I know in my mind, it's easy to forget. So I enjoy the reminders all the time. Oops, I think you were supposed to talk about that.
I was supposed to talk about mindfulness. Or it's what we'll talk about. And there is this 9-word definition of mindfulness that I heard only once in a talk from Thich Nhat Hanh that just stayed with me, and I'll share it with you. Mindfulness is the celebration of life in the present moment. Mindfulness is the celebration of life in the present moment. Wow. He talks about this, but doesn't really use that phrase. And it's a wonderful book called The Art of Living that was put together recently. And a short excerpt where he says this in other words. And it's a real aspiration for my time here. When we are fully established in the present moment, we know that we are alive. And that it is a miracle to be alive. The past has gone, and the future has not yet come. This is the only moment where we can be alive, and we have it. We have to make this present moment into the most wonderful moment of our life. Contemplating impermanence helps us touch freedom and happiness in the present moment. It helps us see reality as it is, so we can embrace change, face our fears, and cherish what we have.
Another practice is cultivating gratitude and taking refuge in the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And so, in terms of the Sangha, particularly, we have this living Sangha, and we have many very experienced practitioners. And something that can be so beneficial is to observe, to really observe the monastic community, the lay community, the seasoned practitioners, in the way they move, speak, wash dishes, sit, eat. And so, and we can also then be aware of our own movements, our own speech, our own activities of the mind and body and mouth. And in this environment, we can be supported in being very intentional about what we're doing and letting go of that habit energy. We have a lot of support to let go of doing things a certain way, the habitual way. And I notice when I come to a monastery, I am so acutely aware of my habit energy. So I enjoy waking up a bit to that. So the 3 jewels.
One more practice, and that is noble silence. And during this retreat, we'll be practicing noble silence from the end of the evening program until after you have completed washing your dishes after breakfast. And noble silence is more than not talking. It's really practicing an inner silence as well. I mean, it's so we're not constantly planning and thinking and regretting and complaining inside, but to really let go of our words. Thai talks about non-stop thinking and letting go of non-stop thinking. And there's another quote from Thai, from a book called Silence. And he says, conscious, intentional quiet is noble silence. Sometimes people assume that silence has to be serious. But there's a lightness in noble silence. Noble silence is a kind of silence that can have just as much joy in it as a good laugh. Noble silence gives us a chance to recognize how our habit energy manifests in the ways we react to people and the situations around us. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to share with you and open this retreat. And Brother Phap Khoi, where are you? Because I don't know what we do now. Should we just get up and go and give this space to you? Oh, there's going to be the bells, and then we're going to get up and go, and then they get the space. Thank you.
Dear Thầy, dear Sangha, we ask you to stay so that we so that we can all rise and bow to our Dharma teacher to show our gratitude and respect to you, please. And then thank you, dear Dharma teachers. And the Sangha, please sit down so that we will have more announcement. Thank you. Dear Thầy, dear Sangha, for our brother